Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining and for coming back. This is Joanna the medium and your intuitive coach. Just very quickly, these are going to be your October readings. I use different cards, sometimes different decks in different readings. Always remember these are general readings, so if you would like a private session, that information is down below for you. Also, if you would like to have the long-term forecast from July until the end of the year, you can do so, or you can purchase those videos on my video page or Vimeo page, and that information is also down below for you. I don't think I have anything that is pressing other than thank you so much for watching, for liking, and for sharing. I always want to make sure that I say this first and foremost, because without you, I wouldn't be doing this. And remember that these messages are general, like I said, and they may not apply to all of you. Some messages may apply to some of you. Some messages may apply to different parts of your life, or a little bit of my message may apply to some of your life. So take what makes sense and discard what doesn't. But always remember, it is almost always, these messages never make sense at the beginning of a month, and they almost always make sense towards the end of the month and the beginning of the next month, which would be November, for this series. So also listen to your moon sign and your rising sign, as these may offer you greater clarity. And I think that's all I have. Enjoy these videos, and I look forward to hearing from you. And if you wish to book a reading with me, that information is down below for you. Thank you so much, and I will see you soon. Bye. Hello, beautiful Sagittarians. This is going to be your reading for the month of October 2017. Right off the bat, I will start with a channeled message first. So just before I started recording, I saw the number 5, which to me signifies changes, and that just appeared to me as I turned on the camera. But when I was channeling, when information was coming through as channeled message, I saw very clearly that for some of you, and this is going to be maybe for many of you, month of October and or November for some of you, because it seems to overlap. Many of you will be moving on into bigger and better things. What I did see, excuse me, is you parting ways with a partnership, a partner, or an organization. And I did not see this as something that was devastating. I saw this as something that was, for the most part, your decision and your choice for the most part, and you needing to move on into something better, bigger, and brighter. So that is what I saw. I also saw, for those of you who are going to be moving forward and or moving away or distancing yourself from a current partnership, if this is going to be work related, I saw that there will be opportunities with much more financial gain for you. The only caution is that I saw that you need to make sure that you pay attention, or you will easily miss it. So this is one of those situations where someone may say something to you, you may see an ad, you may hear a message, you may hear something, and pay attention to the littlest things when it comes to opportunities, and don't be too quick to dismiss something that might seem to be too good to be true. Because what I did see is that there is opportunity in front of you, but you might easily miss it if you do not pay enough attention. So this is not going to be for all of you. Clearly, this is going to be for some of you, and this is particularly talking about business or work environment, not necessarily with relationships as far as romantic, and we'll talk about that too. So that's what I saw. As far as relationships, yes, some of you will be choosing to part ways from a partner, and this partnership can be absolutely romantic, but for some of you it may also be a partnership within a business sense or business construct. I don't really see anything around families. I'm seeing mostly around work environment or career, and then some around partnerships as far as love interests or romantic relationships. For those of you who are going to be parting ways, whether it's work partnership or romantic partnership, for most of you, I am seeing and hearing this is going to be an amicable resolution or amicable transition, or it is being asked of you to keep this as amicable as possible. And for the most part, I see that it actually will be something that will be quite amicable. And the one thing I'm hearing is you do not want to burn any bridges. This seems to be financially oriented for the most part, but some of you certainly will be dealing with parting away from organization or a romantic relationship. The other part of the message is, and this is a separate part of the message, is for those of you who are looking, who are single, and for those of you who are looking for a romantic relationship or to start a relationship, I did see that for the month of October, the message was you're not quite there yet, meaning emotionally you're not quite ready. And obviously it's not going to apply to all of you, but for those of you who are looking and you have been on a dating scene or you have been wanting to start a brand new romantic relationship, particularly romantic, they're saying the message here is spend a little bit of time to do in doing emotional work. Emotionally speaking, yes, I just wrote here little ways to go still, emotionally speaking. And from the time when you hear this message, if this applies to you, until I want to say November, and for some of you December, you are to spend more time healing your emotional self so that your heart is ready and open for when the time comes for you to meet somebody. For many of you, for those of you who are single or those of you who are looking to date, I see beginnings. I'm being shown November, and I'm being pushed towards the new year. So yes, November, December, but I'm being shown something around the corner, more so around what I'm hearing March, but I'm actually seeing January, February, March, that period of time. So if you are single, if you are looking, it doesn't mean you're not going to meet somebody in October, but for those of you who have been healing and have been dealing with emotional stuff from the past, for some of you, the message is, actually he says for many of you, the message is you're not quite emotionally ready yet. And I'm feeling that those of you who hear this message and who this is for, you know that this is going to be something that will resonate deeply with you. Let's see what else I saw. Yes, the other thing I saw is that, and this is a separate message, it can be part of this, but it felt separate. Many of you will be starting a brand new journey, and this was shown to me as you stepping on into a bridge, which represents journey to me, and you are moving on. So the previous message about parting ways can certainly also be an indication of starting a brand new journey. For some of you, I saw this as a move, and I clearly saw you moving, and you are either moving away from where you are physically, and this is a physical move. Yes, it can be for work, but I want to talk about home. And for some of you, I actually heard moving back home. So it doesn't mean you're going to move back home with your parents necessarily, but you may be moving closer to an area where you grew up or where you were born, or going back to the country you came from or country of origin. That was being shown to me. And that's not going to be obviously for all of you. It's going to be for some of you. For some of you, this is a quite extensive move, which tells me that it's, because I'm seeing the globe, so it's across the globe, or it's quite a distance away from you. And I think that's all I got. Yes, the other thing I kept seeing is that for those of you who are going to be moving back home or closer to home, there is a sense of prosperity connected to it. So you, for I know, you may be parting ways in the month of October and from some relationship, and as time goes on, you decide to move in a different direction or into a different city, different country even. And with that, there seems to be a sense of prosperity connected to it. So for those of you who will be moving, it seems to be connected to work, or financially there's a connection there as well in a positive way. So that is the channeled message. I also heard, when I said, what do they need to know? I heard the words, be patient. And sometimes when I get that message, I know many of you will roll their eyes, and sometimes I roll my eyes too. But it's interesting because there were a couple of cards that came in after with the same message. So again, when that comes to me through channeled information and through cards, that is a double whammy, as I call it. So there's really a need to pay attention to this, and I'll go through why. So when I asked for the overall energy through cards or with cards, the Three of Wands came up in reverse. Now, for those of you who are new to my channel, I am not a card reader. I don't know how to read cards traditional way, so I just extract information from what I see, which may be different than a traditional card reader would give a message based on the card. For sometimes it may be the same, but just so you know, and for those of you who know me a little bit, you know that I don't read cards. I can't. It's not my gift. Anyway, so this card to me represents, so in upright, it obviously, well, it says partnerships and alliances. In this position, it shows me partnerships or alliances moving apart. So there's a couple of messages here. I also know that this card can symbolize three is a crowd. So it may symbolize you walking away from a situation because you found yourself to be three is a crowd. That's what I want to say. So hopefully this is not gonna connect with many of you in a romantic relationship, at least. But for those of you who are in work situations or in career alliances, you may find yourself that you just had enough and it's time to part ways, because you may be feeling like the third wheel, and that is not what you want. So that is the overall message. The other message of this card is that when it comes to relationships, you may be finding yourself on doing more so or giving more so or contributing more so than the other person. And again, this can be work relationship or a romantic relationship. So it seems to be, I keep hearing three is a crowd, three is a crowd. So it seems to be the month of October, and we did see many of you moving on. You may find yourself feeling like three is a crowd, or you are starting to feel like a third wheel, or wherever you are, it is no longer feeling like you belong there. And it may not happen in the month of October, but I see that you will start to see little nuggets of information that will ultimately get you to the point where you decide to move on. And for most of you, this is going to be your decision. That is how I'm being shown. So then I pulled out different cards and I said, okay, what do they need to know? And there's a couple of cards. The card of breathe came up. So when I see this card, this is Baron Reed. Those are her cards. I love her cards. This card talks about patience. It talks about breathe. So again, the card of patience came up when I actually heard it a few minutes earlier. And October may be a bit of a time for wait. You might find yourself in a position where you are waiting or needing to slow down. I'm just writing here what I saw. And you also may find that you might be feeling lack of control. And I feel it's connected to this here of three being a crowd or relation, or moving on from a partnership or a relationship. So you may feel, and I see 9, which is endings, you may feel that in the month of October, you find yourself in a situation where you find some things and they may make you feel restless, unsure, and therefore feeling a little bit out of control. So the message here is, do not make any hasty decisions and sit on whatever you're wanting to move on with. Sit on it and contemplate to make sure that the decision that you're going to make is going to be the right move for you. You do not want to attempt any rush decisions, because when we make decisions in haste, and I appreciate that we can't always wait, but for most of you, this will be a well thought out decision. So you want to make sure that you don't make it in haste or out of anger or bitterness, because at the end of the day, whatever decision you make, you will be the one stuck with that decision, and you don't want to. You want to make sure you give it a lot of time and due diligence before you move. Certainly for those of you especially that are going to be moving on from a business situation or work. The other card you receive is the card of an observer. And this message is about you needing to look at things perhaps from a different perspective. Look at things in a way where you step away from the situation, because sometimes when we are too close in a situation, we can't see the tree for the forest for the trees. But then we step away and we remove ourselves from a situation, we're able to see it from a bigger perspective, which then will allow you to make decisions that are worthwhile pursuing. The other thing I kept seeing is looking at the situation from all perspectives. So, whenever we are in a union or in a relationship, each person, each individual will have their own perspectives. So if you are in a position where in the month of October you're looking to move on, or you find yourself in a situation where you feel three is a crowd, for whatever that, however that feels for you, consider looking at the other side of that equation and consider their perspective. Why? Because it allows you to have a greater understanding of the situation. And that doesn't mean that it's gonna feel any better. Oftentimes it does. When we change perspective, when we look at things from a different perspective, even though we are still left with the need to make a choice, it at least allows us to do it in a way that is less complicated. And I think that's how I want to leave it. Let me just see what else I wrote here. Yeah, just being objective, particularly if you are thinking of moving on or away from something. So the next question I asked is, what is it that they need to focus on? And the card of exchanging gifts came up in reverse or in a protection position. And what this message is about is making sure that you are... one of the things that you want to make sure is, if you are going to move forward, or if you are making decisions to move forward with something, the message with this card is be careful what you ask for. Sometimes you may find yourself in a situation where you're working towards something and you want something, but then you are in it and you realize that the price is too high for you to pay, and therefore you may move away from it, or you may decide, I can't do this. Alternatively, that may be the situation in the month of October where you are finding yourself in something that you really desired, something that was the end and be all for you, and you're learning, or you're coming to a place within you where you realize the price is too high to stick here, or I'm not willing to give what is being asked of me in order to get this thing that I was after. So you may be walking away from something, and that's okay. The other part of the message is that if you are someone who is always giver, and that's also tied to control, which comes later, you need to be mindful that in any relationship there is give and receive. So if you are in a relationship at work and you're constantly giving, but you do not feel that you are being recognized, compensated properly or fairly, or treated fairly, or whatever it is, be mindful that if you are always the giver, that you need to equally receive. The other part of the message is that if you are always giving and doing, sometimes we do that because it allows us to be in control. So the message is asking you, or the card is asking you, to allow other people to give to you. And when that happens, we have to pause and we have to make ourselves available to receive. And particularly for people who give, which sometimes makes them a pleaser. Oftentimes people don't know how to receive. So if you are in a relationship, romantic or otherwise, and you're constantly a giver, and I'm not going to say doormat because that's the extreme of giving, but if you are constantly a giver and you're finding yourself that in the month of October it doesn't seem to be working out anymore, notice if you have given yourself away without gaining much in return. And if that's the case, ask yourself, why do you always feel you have to give? And ask yourself if you actually know how to receive. You may be uncomfortable with receiving. And I know it sounds really weird when I say it, but those of you who get this, you'll get it. Sometimes we do not feel worthy of receiving, and it's not something that's at the top of our mind. It's not even something that's at the back of our mind. It is more often than not something that is psychologically, deeply, subconsciously rooted in our psyche. So if you find yourself 3 is a crowd, and that is going to cause a potential issue, obviously, ask yourself, where did things go sideways? In other words, and I'm going to say this, and you guys will understand what I mean. Every situation we find ourselves in, particularly when it comes to relationships, doesn't matter what happens, we are always responsible, at least partly, in whatever is going on. It's never, ever one-sided. So if you have been wronged, and if you feel wronged and you're finding yourself in a situation when 3 is a crowd, ask yourself, do I have a tendency to overgive? And is this a pattern for me? And if so, why do I do it? Where does it come from? And most importantly, what is it that I'm trying to gain from it by doing it? And it is almost always wanting to gain a sense of belonging, love, appreciation, feeling worthy, all of the gazillion things that often many of us did not receive when we were young. So this is something to watch out for, because this is actually, that's the message. Because I said, what is it that they need to focus on? This is something that you might need to focus on. And in order for us to move forward, we need to be able to recognize certain patterns and certain behaviors in order for them to be then transformed. The other part of the message is with a different card, when I said, what other message do you have? What do they have to watch out for? And you have the Emperor in reverse. So in its upright position, Emperors, I love this card. It's strong, it's leadership, it's there's no fanaticism around it, but there's a lot of strength. The card in reverse signifies domination, excessive use of power. It can signify abuse, but rigidity for sure. It can signify infidelity, but also it is a card that shows feeling of lack of control. So why do we I'm just going to put me in that bracket. Why do we feel like we need to control, or we need to be overbearing, or we need to be, over dominant? We do this because at the end of the day, we feel we have no control. So we are trying to assert control by doing these things. So this is something to watch out for. Watch out for your tendency to be overbearing or overly controlling or even aggressive in the month of October. And if you are going to go through something in the month of October or even November where things are going to move apart, always remember that you have the choice as to how you approach the situation that will leave you in a place where it doesn't drain you but also doesn't burn bridges. And listen, if someone has wronged you, and I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but if someone has wronged you, it's very difficult not to be angry. I'm not saying don't be angry, but what I'm saying is take a breath right here, step away, look things from a bigger perspective. Maybe what's happening is a blessing in disguise, and see if you can look for the silver lining. but there's definitely changes for many of you. And some of them, for many of you, these are not going to be negative changes. They're going to be positive changes. Sometimes a positive change happens through difficult circumstances or circumstances that are not overly comfortable. But remember what I said at the beginning. What I saw for most of you, the choices that you will be making to move forward will be made by you, not forced upon you. And I just want to say good luck. And that is all I have. So at the end, the message at the end seemed like you might be in a bit of a pickle, but I don't feel that's going to be for many of you. That's going to definitely not for most of you. But there's changes around you. Please look out for opportunities for more money. And for many of you who will be moving on, I'll wish you best of luck, because certainly it is going to be a good move for many of you, and for many of you, a move that is required in order to help you establish a higher ground or a stronger foundation for yourself. Romantic relationship, family, or work, it doesn't matter. So I hope that helps. If this doesn't make sense to you at the beginning of October, always listen to it towards the end of October and even halfway through November. For some of you, this may not make sense at all, and that's okay. And for some of you, little bits and pieces might make sense. To obviously, this is a general reading. Apply whatever you hear to your situation, because each one of you will deal with different things. Also, please comment at the bottom here if you would like to let me know how this makes sense to you. And most of all, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in November. Take care.